Shalom, shalom, man. Coming back with another video for you guys on the live. Haven't been on Instagram in a minute, so decided we'll do our Wisdom Wednesday on the Instagram live. We usually do it on YouTube, but like I said, we've been neglecting our lives on Instagram, so gonna do this on here. I know a lot of people like coming to Instagram over YouTube sometimes, but anyway, nonetheless, it's still gonna be some wisdom given out here, right? Shalom, shalom to the brother, right? Let me see. Yep, that's the brother Wayne. Shalom to the brother, man, out there in Ohio. But this will still be uploaded to the to the YouTube channel. If you have some precepts, feel free to drop them. Try to not just put the scripture title, but go ahead and type it all the way out so I can just go ahead and read it. Don't have time to flip to everything. We doing things old fashioned, right? YouTube kind of spoiled us and going to the internet and screen sharing and all of that, but doing it old fashioned today with the mighty sword right here. Got to get, keep my skills up when it comes to flipping to these pages. So anyway, nonetheless, want to go ahead and salute in, right? Shalom to all the brothers and sisters that are going to get on this live today, that'll watch it in the future. Peace be unto y'all. Shalom to those that are taking the time out. You could be doing anything in this world today, but you're wanting to get edified. You wanting to see a lesson that goes with the Bible and the beliefs that you believe in, right? And hopefully we all believe in the Most High and His Son, right? So shalom to all those that are cleaving as well, that know their position in this world, know that God is the God of the Hebrews, God is the God of the Israelites, but they know their place and they're cleaving. Like Zechariah 8:23 says, I'll take the skirt of him that's a Jew and say, bring me with you, for we know that God is with you. Also in Isaiah 14, shalom to the cleavers, right? So shalom to everybody. And last but not least, we want to say all praises to the Most High God by the way of His Son, who's an instrument of salvation for the nation, right? Gave myself a little bit of time, got on here about 4 minutes early, right? So that way by 8 o'clock, like I said, I was going to get on, we can be rolling with these precepts. I got about 10 precepts here, shouldn't take long. We're going to go over the title, Unnoticed, right? Unnoticed. Sometimes we feel like we're unnoticed. Sometimes we feel like we don't get the recognition that we may need or the recognition that we may want, right? So this video is for that, right? It's to encourage, exhortate, and give you some wisdom on going unnoticed in your life, in your spiritual walk, amongst your friends, amongst your family, right? In your job. We're going to go over it, right? So check this out. This is Ecclesiastes 9, 13 through 16. If y'all see me looking over here, that's because I took my time and wrote out a lesson, right? So I'll be able to give these precepts as well. I'll probably put them in the comment section if you want to write these down and go back over them. All right. So unnoticed, Ecclesiastes 9, 13 through 16. Let's start. Verse 13. This wisdom have I seen also under the sun, and it seemed great unto me. Right. So this is King Solomon talking here. Right. He said this wisdom. This is Wisdom Wednesday. So we got to give you this wisdom. Right. Shalom and the water for the brother scribing. Right. The water, that's a mighty office, So the water for that, for as long as you may be on this live. Hopefully it's through the whole thing. But like I said, it shouldn't take that long. So anyway, I read this. Solomon was given his wisdom. So I was like, man, it was a great thing under the sun when I read it. So I'm going to give it to the people too. Right. So verse 13 once again says, this wisdom have I seen also under the sun, and it seemed great unto me. Verse 14, there was a little city and few men within it, and there came a great king against it and besieged it. Right. So it was a little city. All right. And a few men within it. So this little city had a low population. Right. And besieged means another nation came and took over. Right. Laid war against. Right. It says, and built great bulwarks against it, meaning they had plan of attacks, and they set up instruments of attack around this city, right? So they set up these bulwarks against this city, right? This means They might be trapping them in so that they can't get any food outside of the walls. It could mean that they're scouring the walls, getting ready to infiltrate the city that way. They could have the battering ram to ram down the walls. We don't know, but they're setting up bulwarks against it, right? We'd have to look up that word bulwarks. Verse 15. Now there was found in it a poor wise man, right? And if we always think about it, right, most of the wisdom that we hear comes from the poor. And they'll be like old men or somebody that's homeless. You talk to a homeless person, they'll give you a lot of wisdom. Even you talk to some of the poor people in your family, they'll give you a lot of wisdom and knowledge, man. So don't think just because somebody's situation is lowly that they don't have wisdom, because a lot of times they have that wisdom. They might just not be able to apply it to their life. So don't just count them out. Listen to them, right? It says a poor wise man, and he by his wisdom delivered the city. So he might have came up with a plan. He kind of came up with a solution on how to protect this city, right? And win this war against that great city that came against it, right? From his wisdom, right? It says, yet no man remembered that same poor man. Let me read that from the top. Verse 15. Now there was found in it a poor wise man, and he by his wisdom delivered the city. Yet no man remembered that same poor man. So guess what? That same poor man, nobody remembered. Even though he saved the city, he went unnoticed, right? Khan, Brother Wayne said he's here. So, hey, Lord willing, he's here the whole time. Khan, the water for that. So this old man, he went unnoticed, man. He saved the whole city. The city might have been frantic and screaming. The city had a king, probably had soldiers. But the wisdom from a poor old man saved the city, and he went unnoticed, right? Verse 16 says, then said I, this is King Solomon talking about, then said I, wisdom is better than strength. Because this poor man, he didn't have no strength. He wasn't in the army. He didn't have no power or might in his hand. He wasn't a king or a ruler, right? But his wisdom saved the city, not his strength. It says, nevertheless, the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are not heard. So a lot of us, man, we feel like our words are not heard. A lot of us, we feel like our wisdom is despised. We tell people to keep the law, statutes, and commandments. We tell people to keep the law, statutes, and commandments, and it seems like our wisdom is despised. It seems like it's a cliche, right? A lot of times our words, when we might be counseling somebody with relationship problems, counseling somebody with a job problem, counseling somebody in everyday matters, and it seems like our wisdom is despised, just like this old man that saved the city, right? But one thing we have to know as children of the Most High God is it doesn't matter if we go noticed or unnoticed, right? Regardless, this old man saved the city, right? So sometimes we have to do things that benefit others and that don't benefit us, right? And you're strong because of that, right? So let's get some. That's our intro, right? That's our introductory parable, as you may say, right? Let's go to Wisdom of Solomon, right? Wisdom of Solomon 5:1. Wisdom of Solomon 5:1. Right? This is why I'm doing this. I'm getting a little rusty on the sword. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 5 and verse 1. Right? It says, then shall the righteous man stand in great boldness before the face of such have afflicted him and made no account of his labors. Sometimes people don't make account of the sacrifices that, living the law, statutes, and commandments has on our life. They don't know some of the sacrifices that we have to give up. We have to give up jobs sometimes. We have to give up relationships sometimes, all for this truth. And people don't make account of the labor that we're doing when we go out there and try to teach the word and spread the gospel, right? That's us being bold. Not everybody feels comfortable telling the truth, spreading the truth, opening up the Bible with somebody else. Right? That's bold. You stepping out of your comfort zone sometimes, right? But sometimes, man, it sucks that nobody makes an account of our labor. But right here it says the righteous is going to stand in great boldness. Meaning it doesn't matter if you go unnoticed. That old man went unnoticed. That old man saved the city though, right? But nobody made account of his wisdom and his labor. So some of us, even on the job, right? You might be at your job and you give your boss a interesting idea, and then your boss turns around and implements it, but doesn't give you any thanks. And the company's better for it, right? You could throw a fit, you can leave or whatever, right? But a lot of times if you just wait your time, the Most High God will raise up those that were abased, and he'll bring you up high, right? So you just got to keep your integrity, right? You might be in your church or your congregation or whatever, right? It doesn't matter if you're an old elder. It doesn't matter if you're a young man or young woman or older woman. Guess what? Sometimes it seems like your wisdom goes unnoticed. Sometimes it seems like nobody cares for what you have to hear or what you have to say, right? Your words are despised, like that old man that we just read about. It doesn't matter how old you are. It's okay to go unnoticed, right? And when you go unnoticed, guess what? That's actually you being wise. You playing in the background, you not trying to be in the forefront all the time. You know, a lot of times when we read in the New Testament, Christ was in the background, man. And then they sought him out, right? It might be something going on and he's in the back with his disciples. And they say, well, what say you? Right? They come to the wise man at the end of the day. So play it cool, be in the background. Don't always be in the forefront. You know, nowadays we live in a time where everything's instant. Everybody is their own celebrity, right? You can get a new car and show it off. Get a new house, you show the keys off, right? You get some new shoes, you can show them off on your Instagram story, right? You can go to Facebook and show off your new business. You could be in the forefront, and it's causing all of us to want to be in the forefront all the time. We want to be the center of attention. We want to have the podcast that blows up. We want to have that job that inspires people. But a lot of times you got to sit back, be lowly first, right? And then wait for God to give you that increase. Stop looking for that increase yourself. It's okay to go unnoticed, right? We have some small camps out there and y'all are going unnoticed. We are going unnoticed, right? I can say that this congregation or this church right here, the Hopeful Elect, it's a small camp. Sometimes we go unnoticed, but do you think we care? No, we don't care, because as long as we're doing what we're supposed to do, we know that the Most High God is pleased with it. And we know that salvation waits for us. Just like that old man. Let's get the next precept, right? Matthew 6 and verse number 4. This is the book of Matthew chapter 6 and verse 4. That thine alms may be in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret himself shall reward thee openly. So a lot of times, okay, your alms could be actual alms, right? Your alms could be spiritual alms, right? Your alms could be something as simple as buying food for your spouse, right? Your alms could be something as simple as giving somebody gas money, right? Or your alms could be something great as, you know, you feed all the homeless downtown. Your alms could be great like you done paid somebody's rent when they had no rent money. All right. So your alms could be something physical like that, but it also could be something spiritual as well. But nonetheless, you do it in secret, right? You don't need cameras when you're doing charity, right? You don't need to record or tell everybody what you did after you did it, right? When you read in the beginning of Ecclesiastes, he says, hey, all is vanity. I looked under the sun and I put in question all the labor of men, and I'm loosely paraphrasing, put in question all the labors of men, and it's all vanity. Whether you're doing good, whether you're doing bad, whether you're rich or poor, a lot of times people do things for themselves because it makes them feel good. Oh, I give back to the poor because it makes me feel good, right? But with that being said, do it in secret, and the Most High God is going to reward you openly, right? Sometimes in a marriage, right, we got a lot of brothers and sisters that are young, right, getting married at a young age, even older people in an older age. This is wisdom for married folk, right? Sometimes it's okay to let the other person be right. Even though you might think you're right, even though you know that you're right and you feel like you're going unnoticed, sometimes it's best to just let it ride, and then it'll resurface, and then you can give the wisdom from it, right? So sometimes even in your marriage, you feel like you go unnoticed. Some of the acts that you do, if you're a woman, you may be taking care of the kid, cleaning the house. You got a job, you running errands, picking up groceries. Sometimes it may feel like you go unnoticed and you would want to be appreciated more. But guess what? It's okay for you to go unnoticed. Just keep doing you. Just like this old man, guess what? He saved the whole city and was despised, and nobody made account for what he did. Nobody made account for his wisdom. Your husband, he might not make an account for all that you do in the house. But you're keeping that house running. Without you, that house would be no house. Men, you going to work 9 to 5. You might have 2 jobs, you might have 3 jobs. You might be doing all you can to provide. And sometimes it may feel like you're going unnoticed. Right? Your mom and your dad are always calling you, or your grandmother's always calling you, or grandfather's always calling you, your uncle's always calling you. And it just seems like you can't please anybody, but you're taking care of business at home. And it seems like it's going unnoticed. Guess what? It's okay to go unnoticed. The Most High God sees what you're doing for your house and for your family. Right? So these are more examples of going unnoticed. Right? You do these things in secret, long suffer in secret. It's going to come back and God's going to reward you openly. Same thing spiritually. You're always praying. You're always fasting, right? You're always reading scriptures. But it seems like sometimes God said it. It seems like you're going unnoticed. But don't forget about Daniel. When that angel came to Daniel, he said, look, I heard you since the first day you cried out. The Most High God is not going to not notice you. Man might unnotice. You might go unnoticed to man, but the Most High God's not going to unnotice you. He's not going to not notice the acts that you're doing. So keep doing what you're doing. And that leads me to the next scripture. And I bring this scripture out a lot, right? This is Galatians 6 and 9, right? Galatians 6 and 9, right? This says, let us not grow weary in well doing. A lot of us, we can give up. We're doing well, but we're not getting noticed for it. So we give up. A lot of people come into truth. The knowledge of the truth, they join, bigger camps and organizations, and they can't scale and get the titles they want to. And what happens? They get less motivated. They grow weary in well-doing, right? A lot of us come into the knowledge of the truth, and we grow weary in keeping the commandments. It's not fun. My friends aren't doing it, right? I seem like a hater sometimes because I'm always being the party pooper. I'm not. It doesn't seem attractive, and you grow weary in well-doing. If you're doing what says, thus saith the Lord, you're doing well. Just because you go unnoticed and they don't make an account of your labor does not mean that you stop, right? It says, let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. A lot of us, man, we're fainting, right? Like it says with the sower that sows seeds. A lot of us were fainting, and the cares of this life are like thorns choking us out. We're too worried about making money. We're too worried about popularity. We're too worried about fitting into society. We're too worried about our old relationships, our old friends, our blood family. We're too worried about all that, and it causes us to faint. And we're not going to reap that harvest if we faint. You got to keep working. You got to keep working, right? The news is always talking about all the farms and how this world is ran from the truck drivers and the farmers. Nobody makes account of their labor when you're having a good time, when you're at a party, when you're at a cookout, when you go to the grocery store to buy that produce. Nobody takes account of all the hours that somebody's behind the wheel on the road, day and night. Nobody makes account of all the hard work it takes a farmer or a rancher to make sure that those cows are healthy, those chickens are healthy, right? That those vegetables are growing like they should, even through droughts and hot seasons, right? And cold seasons. Nobody makes account of those people's labor, but they do it in secret. Why? Because they're saving the city, man. So spiritually, we have to save the city by not growing weary and well-doing. We got to keep doing what's required of us, right? Let's get an example real quick from King David. This is the book of 1 Samuel 17 and 34. 1 Samuel 17, verse 34. All right. The book of 1 Samuel, chapter 17 and verse 34. It reads, "And David said unto Saul, Thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear and took a lamb out of the flock." Right? So before David was even a king, he was doing things in secret. Nobody knew that David, we'll keep reading, right? 35. "And I went out after him and smote him and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by the beard and smote him and slew him. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear." Right? So nobody knew that David killed a lion and a bear. He just did it to protect the sheep. Right? He didn't get any praise for it, but he got self-satisfaction from saving the sheep. And guess what? He was rewarded openly. The Most High God rewarded David openly by making him king. Let's get that, right? 2 Samuel chapter 7 and verse 8. 2 Samuel 7 and verse 8. Right? And this is an exhortation right here, seeing that it happened to David, it could happen to you as well. Right? So 2 Samuel chapter 7 and verse 8. "In all the places where," Salakia, verse 8. "Now therefore, so shalt thou say unto my servant David, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, I took thee from the sheepcote, from following the sheep, to be ruler over my people, over Israel." Meaning what? Even though David was that poor young man keeping the sheep, and nobody knew what he was doing. He was protecting those sheep from bears and lions, right? Nobody knew that. And David didn't know he was going to be king, but the Most High God saw what he did in secret, right? Even though he went unnoticed, the Most High God gave him that notoriety. He blessed him openly. So your alms could be protecting somebody as well, right? Just like David protected the sheep, and since he did that in secret, the Most High God rewarded him openly, right? Let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 4 and verse 13. The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 4 and verse 13, right? "Better is a poor and a wise child than an old and foolish king, who will no more be admonished," right? So a lot of times people see that king and everybody wants to be like that king. But the Most High God is saying that poor child has more of a future than that king does, right? Why? Because if you're a king, you're already at the top. The only way to go is the bottom. You're only going to decline when you're at the top. But when you're at the bottom and you're going unnoticed, the Most High God can change your life around, right? And he can elevate you to that king position, right? So that's what this wisdom is going into, right? So let's get into this, right? Ecclesiastes 4:13. It says, "Better is a poor and wise child than an old and foolish king, who will no more be admonished." Verse 14. "For out of prison he cometh to reign," right? Meaning that poor kid, it could be somebody out of prison. The Most High God can make him a king. So he has a future, right? But check this out. "Whereas also he that is born in his kingdom becometh poor." So even though that kingship is passed down to a lot of kings and it runs in their family and it's royal blood, right? You're born at the top. The only way to go is down, right? So just because somebody's getting noticed doesn't mean that you should envy them, right? When we read in the book of Psalms, David says, "I almost envied the wicked for the prosperity that I saw them getting," right? Once again, loosely paraphrasing, right? So sometimes we can see the prosperity and we can see the success of wicked people, and we can envy them because they get that notoriety. They get noticed, right? Their YouTube channel blows up. Their job gets all the customers, right? But sometimes it's okay to go unnoticed. The Most High God is seeing if you'll hold it down even when nobody's looking. The Most High God is seeing if you're going to keep your integrity, right? So that leads me to my next point. Let's go to the book of Job. Job 27 and 5. Right? This is the book of Job, chapter 27 and verse number 5. "God forbid that I should justify you till I die. I will not remove mine integrity from me." right? Whenever you get hired for a job, they always ask you, what does integrity mean to you? The Bible teaches you about integrity. The Bible will help you on your interview. Trust me, it's helped me on interviews. That wisdom that you get out of this book, right? Job says his integrity is not going to leave from him. Now, he could have cursed God in secret. He could have did a whole bunch of things in secret and sinned in secret. But even when everything was taken from Job, he did the right thing. He never cursed God with his lips, right? And that's what going unnoticed is. Going unnoticed is doing the right thing even though nobody cares about you, even though nobody makes account of your labor, right? And guess what? The Most High God, when he see you hold it down like that, hey, he gonna bless you. That's why, even in life, you may think that you're going unnoticed until that coach, he noticed, he gives you that recognition at the end of the season. You thought you were going unnoticed, but that coach, he gave you that trophy of best teammate or defensive player of the year or MVP of the team, right? You think you're going unnoticed until you get blessed, right? So even in a marriage, right? You may think you're going unnoticed as a wife, keeping the house, until an anniversary comes and your husband writes you a heartfelt letter and he noticed everything that you've been doing. And you're like, dang, I wasn't going unnoticed, right? Like the brother said, most improved, right? The coach give you that most improved award, right? So even though you're going unnoticed, understand the Most High God notices you. Don't grow weary in well doing, right? Let me go here real quick. Sirach chapter 11 and verse 21. Sirach chapter 11 and verse 21. Right? This is the book of Sirach chapter 11 and verse 21. Marvel not at the works of a sinner, right? But trust in the Lord and abide in thy labor, right? So don't marvel at the works of a sinner. A lot of us, man, we're amazed at some of these sinners, right? Some of these wicked people in the world, right? And we want to take advice from them. We want to get wisdom from them just because they have the followers, they got the money, they got the church members, we want to take that. We want to get what they got. So we listen to them. But the Most High God said, don't marvel at their works. Trust in the Lord, abide in thy labor. Meaning, don't grow weary in well doing. You're doing what you're supposed to do. Even though it seems like you're going unnoticed right now, just keep doing it, right? For it is an easy thing in the sight of the Lord on the sudden to make a poor man rich. Hey, look, the Most High God, you could be poor today, but the Most High God can make you rich tomorrow, right? It's that simple for him. You could be keeping the sheep today like David, and he can make you king of all Israel tomorrow. Even spiritually, right? You could be poor in wisdom today. You could not understand this whole book today, and then tomorrow he give you a revelation, and now you one of the mightiest prophets in the world, and now you just got all this type of attention coming your way, right? You could be a small camper congregation today, and out of nowhere, the Most High God just increase you, and in 1 year, you got 5,000 members, right? So check this out. Even though you're going unnoticed, right? Don't waver. Don't get envious. Don't get covet. Don't covet other people's fame. Don't try to be in the forefront all the time. Relax. Take a chill pill. Keep doing what you're doing. And just like that old man, even though you're doing things unnoticed, you might save a soul. You might save multiple souls. You might save a city, right? Last precept, Sirach chapter 13 and verse 23. Sirach chapter 13 and verse 23, right? It says, when a rich man speaketh, every man holdeth his tongue, and look what he saith. They extol it to the clouds, right? But if the poor man speak, they say, what fellow is this? And if he stumble, they will help to overthrow him, right? Meaning going back to the very first parable we read in Ecclesiastes 9, that old man, he saved the city with his wisdom. And it says his wisdom was despised and no man, right, took account of his words, right? He went unnoticed. A lot of times we're that poor man. We're going unnoticed. You might be going, like we said, you might be going unnoticed in your job, right? They don't see all the hard work you're putting in, right? Even you might be a driver, like the brother E-Man down there, right? Shalom. You might be on that road 24/7, right? barely awake. In America, the world don't notice your labor, right? You might be a man, you got 2 jobs, 3 jobs, but don't, and it seems like your family don't notice your labor. You might be a wife, right, in your marriage, and you just keep in the house, and it seems like all your work is going unnoticed. It doesn't matter what people think. It don't matter what your husband think. It don't matter what your wife think. It don't matter what your kids think. You might be providing for your kids, and we all know this, right? As a kid, when you look at a kid, man, you just look at them and be like, man, they have no cares in the world because I'm providing everything for that child. My work for that child is going unnoticed by that child. Even when they get into their teenage years, they think you're a bank of money, right? They don't understand some of the things that you did to give them the life that they had. Your works go unnoticed, right? That's just like being in this truth, man, living these law, statutes, and commandments. You will go unnoticed sometimes, right? But guess what? You should be fulfilled in giving life to somebody else, giving salvation to somebody else, like that poor man in Ecclesiastes 9, right? So you're going to go unnoticed in a lot of things, man, in life. But like we said with Daniel, right? He heard you the first day, right? He saw you your first time laboring, right? And he makes accounts of your labor, even though man doesn't. The sister said, sometimes the Most High will hide you to see if your heart and labor is for the Lord or if it is for the approval of the world, right? And we see that all the time. Brothers and sisters come and go and try to get famous, right? And then when they don't get famous, they die out. They grow weary, right? The Most High God, like the sister is saying, is seeing if you're going to hold it down for him when nobody's looking. You're gonna be the first one in the gym, last one out, right? You're going to be studying when nobody else is studying, right? When I first came into truth, watched the video, and the brother was saying, man, you got to be reading this book. You got to be always in a righteous competition. Somebody might be studying right now. And then when it's 3 a.m. in the morning, you be like, hey, man, nobody's studying right now. I'm gonna get this word in, right? Because it's the labors that nobody takes account of that makes you the better person. Nobody knew what Kobe was doing, right, when he was practicing so much, but later on, Kobe got the chance to tell everybody what he was doing in the dark. Nobody knew about King David, right? Shalom to the brother, Yeshaya. Nobody knew about King David when he was keeping the sheep. But when King David got the opportunity to be a king, now he could tell everybody what he was doing. So keep grinding in your season. And then the Most High God, Lord willing, will give you that opportunity to give your wisdom from the things that you were doing that were going unnoticed, right? So a lot of us were in that season of being unnoticed. And this was just an exhortation, man, to encourage you all. Hey, it's okay to be unnoticed. The wisest of wisest men went unnoticed, right? And just because you're unnoticed does not mean that you don't have a purpose. Just because you're going unnoticed doesn't mean that you aren't being a benefit to somebody else's life. But with that, I'm gonna say shalom. This video will be uploaded to YouTube, so be on the lookout for that. And I'll also put in the comments all of the precepts or scriptures, for those that don't know what a precept is, in the comments, so that you can go over some of these stories, some of this wisdom, and some of this exhortation found in the scriptures, right? It says, don't mean the Most High ain't dealing with you, right? Sometimes the Most High is dealing with you when you are going unnoticed, right? That's a good point as well. Sometimes when you're going unnoticed, it's because the Most High is hiding you, like the sister said, right? For that right time when he feels like, okay, you're ready. Sometimes when you're on that sports team, you're on that bench and you putting all that work in, and the Most High God is the coach and he just not putting you in the game yet. You're like, man, I would have hit that shot. Man, I would have scored that touchdown. Man, I would have stopped that throw. And then he finally puts you in, and now you taking off. It's because that coach can see when's the right time to use you, right? The Most High God is our coach, man. He sees when the right time is for us to be used. So whether you're on your job, keep doing what you're doing. But you in your marriage and in your relationship, keep doing what you're doing. You're gonna be able to give that wisdom to somebody in the future. It could save a life, right? The brother said, can't see the iron in the flame, but it comes out glowing. I'm guessing that's a deep parable right there. The brother You know what I'm saying? Can't see the iron in the flame, but it comes out glowing. Meaning, you put it in the flame, right? You might have a sword, a blacksmith. You put that sword in the flame, right? And it disappears. All you see is fire, right? It's going, you might be going unnoticed. Then when you come out, it's glowing red. And now you notice it. Now everybody's aware. Now everybody's kind of backing up like, oh, don't touch me with that, right? Con, Brother Denal, wise saying, right? That wise saying, look, that wise saying might be said today in this chat, and it might go unnoticed, but it will help somebody, right? But Con, man, don't want to be on here too long. With that, shalom to everybody that got on here, giving all praises to the Most High God, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who sent his son as a salvation for an instrument of salvation for the nation. Signing out. Shalom.